Howdy everyone, Warstarcy here, and today we'll be doing something a little different from usual. Idea Factory sent me a PS5 key for Neptunia Sisters vs Sisters, but the game came out like 6 or 7 months ago, so I can't exactly do the traditional review or impressions video I'd normally do. Instead, I've decided to do something a little different. Instead, I'm going to try to see how this compares to recent Neptunia games. It's no secret with Neptunia fans, both casual and hardcore, that the series has been flailing a bit, to put it kindly. Not exactly what I'd say in an awful state, but with each subsequent release, it seems to hit less and less with fans. They definitely haven't been the most exciting for me either. I've at the very least played a bit of almost every Neptunia game, and finished multiple, only having skipped the last one, Senran Kagura X Neptunia. Up until recently at least. For the sake of this video, I went and gave that one a try, and I can't really say that I cared much for it. So for this video, I want to try to determine whether or not Sisters vs Sisters is an improvement for the series, or just another one to add to the pile. While I'm not the most familiar with previous titles, I'll still try my best with at least some of the basics. So let's get the story out of the way. From what I've played, it feels like your typical Neptunia story. The goddesses go on a mission to the PC continent, and the CPU candidates end up shoved into a stasis capsule of some sort, and upon being woken by Histor, everything has changed. 2 years have passed and all the shares have been taken by cell phones. So your typical Neptunia stuff. Also, as is tradition with Neptunia games,
somehow awful in return.
It's got some of the expected quirks and humor of past Neptunia games, so in that department, all seems fine enough. It certainly grabbed my interest a lot easier than recent entries at least. One thing I need to praise is, it's actually dubbed. For a while they stopped dubbing the games, and that was a real turnoff for me because while I don't mind Japanese games not having dubs, the Neptunia series has pretty much had it since the beginning, and I got well acquainted with the English voices, so when I started this game, I was pleasantly surprised to hear them once again. Another thing worth mentioning, and I know this may completely kill interest for some people, but it needs to be mentioned. This game did get some of its dialogue censored and rewritten post-launch due to a mess up with the ESRB rating regarding the language, a change that got applied to every platform of release. Censorship is something that really gets under my skin, and I saw a lot of people get quite pissed at this when it first happened, and understandably so. Whether it completely ruins the game, I don't know. I'll let you decide for yourself. We've also got some modern slang. I don't know if that's the result of localization or not. On lighter news, the live 2D animations seem to have improved, with characters being much more animated even when not actively talking. It definitely helps things feel more alive. Speaking of alive, I've also noticed more instances of real-time cutscenes, which is also nice. Another change involves stores. Instead of being a menu on the world map, stores are now in a physical place where you talk to physical NPCs. I can't say this one is either a negative nor a positive to me, as it had all come down to preference, but it is something a bit different from the normal. As is tradition with Neptunia, there's also some stuff reused, like music, though there is still new stuff as usual too. One last thing I want to mention is that the game is also seemingly lacking fan service, though it seems to have been that way with previous entries as well. So with a few things out of the way, let's finally talk gameplay. The combat is real time, which has become quite common with the series. We've had multiple games in the Neptunia series where this was the case, and I'm still not 100% sure how I feel about it. It's been in spin-off titles, so I guess I don't really mind too much in the end. After all, they're all trying to do their own sort of thing, and typically with a spin-off game, you know you're getting into something that's different from the main line of games, and Neptunia has been all over the place in terms of spin-off gameplay, having tried multiple different things with mixed results. In this case, the combat was kind of fun. You can switch control of characters on the fly, which is actually essential as you can chain combos combos by switching characters after a few attacks, and you'll be doing this quite frequently. And characters don't just have set moves that remain for the entirety of the game, rather you unlock more and you can assign them to different spots in the combo chain to mix up the moveset to your liking. This game does have action points though, so you can't just keep endlessly spamming attacks without break. So overall, in terms of Neptunia games with real-time combat, this is a good one. Possibly one of the best even. One thing I want to go over is the in-game performance. It's not what I expected for a next-gen Neptunia game. When I was given control to move around in an area for the first time, it threw me off a little. It's locked at 30 FPS with no performance options. The previous game, Neptunia X Senran Kagura Ninja Wars, was able to reach 60 FPS, and that game didn't have a current gen version, so I guess I was just expecting more from a game that has a PS5 specific version. Though obviously while the actual gameplay is 30 FPS, the live 2D portions are in 60 FPS at least. We'd have a real problem here if they couldn't at least manage that. Gameplay wise though, it has moments of stutter, especially at the ends of battle when you defeat the last enemy, where I've had it just freeze for about a second. I don't know if this is an intended feature or not, so that it can like load the rest of the world when the battle is done, but either way it's definitely off-putting. There's plenty of noticeable popping in the world, especially when it comes to shadows that will flicker in and out of existence at a moment's notice, like right in front of your face. It's playable overall, it just leaves more to be desired, as I know they could do better. So I think I've gone over enough to give some final thoughts. Like all the Neptunia games, this one is definitely flawed. There's some things that I really wish they did better, but at the same time, this game captured my interest a lot more than the previous entries, so it's doing something right at least. It's still a Neptunia game at its core, filled with many of the things you'd expect from the franchise. It's just another classic case of some steps taken forward with some taken back. All I hope is that Compile Heart takes the positives from this game, learn from their mistakes with it, and carry it all over the future titles to help build the series up again. And that Idea Factory doesn't make another oopsie with the ESRB. And that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully I did an okay job, as this is the biggest game I've ever had the chance to cover on the channel. So if I missed anything, feel free to correct me in the comments section, as I'm not 100% familiar with previous entries. That said, I'd like to thank Idea Factory for sending me the review key. This is Warsarcy on the Game Clips channel, and I'm out.